welcome to Somewhere Out There. Joe Hero here, and I'm glad to have you with me to discuss Chapter 1 of Bud Hopkins' book entitled Intruders, The Incredible Events at the Copley Woods. Going right into Chapter 1 now. In September of 1983, Bud Hopkins, a painter and sculptor by profession and UFO researcher, received a letter from Kathy Davis, which began a 2.5-year investigation into the dramatic and extraordinary events in and around her home in the Copley Woods. Taken by itself, Bud pointed out that an experience such as this might be deemed too fantastic to be true. But numerous facts and patterns corroborate to provide an inherently credible account, one that demands open-minded scientific research. Bud's book, Missing Time, prompted Kathy to contact Bud via letter, which, although it was written in August, he did not get forwarded through his publisher until September. As Bud's book, Missing Time, demonstrated, one of the profound evidences of the physical reality of alien abductions are scars left on the abductees in the form of straight incisions on the calf, knee, hip, back, or neck, and sometimes in the form of 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch scoop marks. These possible cell retrieval sites often occur during the first of a series of abductions starting at age 6 or 7 of the same individual throughout the victim's lifetime, usually ending by the time the person reaches their 40s. It so happened that Kathy Davis, her mother, her closest friend, and her next-door neighbor all bore identical scars on their lower legs. Kathy's letter contains some 15 color photographs, including a dead grass UFO landing site. She wanted to inform Bud about 2 things. First of all, it was documented by the enclosed photos and a missing time incident that occurred years earlier involving her older sister. Now, in July of 1983, Kathy, who was a divorcee living with her parents and 2 boys, was getting ready to go sew at a neighbor's when she noticed a light in the pool house and that the door was open. She had shut it earlier and so mentioned it to her mom. When she left the house, she also noticed that the garage door was open and shouldn't have been. So she called her mother when she got to the neighbor's 1 street over. Her mom was nervous and told her she had seen a big light by the pool house which moved up to the bird feeder and shone like a spotlight on the feeder, growing to about 2 feet in diameter. Kathy came back home to check out the yard with her dad's .22 rifle and, finding nothing but her dog Penny hiding under a car out back, went back to sew. Later, around midnight, she, her friend Dee, and Dee's daughter came back to their home to go swimming. After that day, their yard was burned, causing nothing to grow and no animals to enter the burned area, nor birds to come back to the bird feeder. The main area was a brown circle, 8 feet in diameter. Extending from the circle was a 49-foot swath, 3 feet in width, that ran straight, ending in an arc. 2 smaller jogs emerged from the main circle, one containing a crack as if caused by intense heat. The photographs were clear and showed this mysterious lawn damage. Now, the other incident happened to her older sister Laura, a 35-year-old unimaginative realist who in the summer of 1965 left home around 4:30 p.m. to take their mother to bingo. On the way home from dropping their mom off, she was passing the church on 10th Street when she suddenly was compelled to pull into the church parking lot, which so happened to be unusually deserted. She looked up to see a silver craft with red, green, and white flickering lights hovering about telephone pole height above her car. She only remembered reaching over to turn down the radio to see if the radio had been making the noise that she was hearing, and the next thing she remembered was that it was dark and she was driving down the street. She proceeded to go get their mom, and then they even drove around looking for the craft afterward but never saw anything. Kathy's sister's experience had 3 details common in abduction accounts. The first detail is some sort of external control exercised over the victim, causing them to make decisions acknowledged by the abductees later to be out of the ordinary and even irrational, such as turning down a road off a main route, entering a parking lot, or leaving their house. The method of this psychic control is still unknown, even today, I might add, but the abductee is set up in a place where the UFO occupants can operate freely. The second detail is the episode of lost time. The abductee remembers the onset of the experience and the conclusion virtually seamlessly under the influence of some sort of imposed amnesia. Kathy's letter continued with an interesting story happening 10 years later in 1975, where Laura went to get hypnotized to lose weight. Her friend who went with her did fine with the hypnotic session, but Laura experienced some terrifying experiences shortly after, like going to bed and then getting up, not being able to talk or hear, and having visual distortions. She also noticed that after getting hypnotic suggestions not to eat certain foods, that she found herself loving those foods more. She called the hypnotist to see if he could help, and when she heard his voice, she became violent, wanting to kill him. This was unlike her. Kathy's letter ended saying that she and her mother had had some more unusual experiences, hers mostly in the form of vivid dreams. Her mother and her had identical scars with unknown origins on their right legs from when they were kids. Kathy's latest and most vivid dream had been in the summer of 1978. She was awakened in the middle of the night by 2 4 or 5 foot tall men with dingy gray-white skin and large liquid eyes, who let her hold a small black box and told her she could not keep it, but when the time came, she would know what to do with it. She experienced terror and ultimately became more calm. She did not remember the men leaving, only waking up and they were gone. Her account had not been contaminated by the book Missing Times information, nor had she even seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind at that time. Other items discovered by Budd were supposed dreams of Kathy and her mother involving them hiding in her closet when Kathy was a kid because of a light that was bright outside and 2 men in the house that wanted to take Mary, the mother's daughter. Mary recalled it being her eldest daughter Laura, an apparent contradiction, but Laura had a phobia of attics like the one accessed in her bedroom closet as a kid. Kathy and her friends also had repeated run-ins with lights when they had driven around together, including an amazing missing time incident that later added critical data to our knowledge of alien abductions. Budd requested that Kathy and her family revisit the burned area in their lawn to retrieve soil samples, control samples from the undamaged yard, and to scan the area for additional clues that may have been overlooked, although it had been some 2.5 months since the incident. The revisited site revealed 4 small holes of finger thickness and symmetrically arranged around the 8-foot diameter circle, which could have been produced by landing gear from a craft, following true to precedents set in other similar UFO cases. During a September phone call, Budd discovered one of the most disconcerting of the events surrounding the Copley Woods. At Mary Davis's request, Kathy informed Budd about a series of mysterious phone calls that she received in 1980 throughout her pregnancy with her second son, Tommy. Every Wednesday, around 3:30 p.m., the phone would ring, and when answered, and this is quite disconcerting, even to me, this part of the story, Above loud background noise, an unintelligible, guttural voice would moan and mutter in a monologue, sometimes seeming angry, sad, or neutral. Kathy had their number switched to an unlisted one. And on a Monday, the only time a call happened on a day other than a Wednesday, the voice called, easily accessing their new unlisted number. It sounded angry that time. Now, those calls continued for the duration of Kathy's pregnancy, being answered by both Mary and Kathy's friend Dorothy as witnesses, ceasing abruptly within a week of Tommy being born. This kind of unusual business has been documented in other UFO cases as well. During an October 1983 visit to Bud in New York, Kathy reported a chilling fact when being questioned about her and her family's physical and psychological well-being. Her second son Tommy was 3 years old, and although bright, he still did not speak. He just made a sort of moaning sound which she confided to a female colleague of Bud's, sounded like the mysterious caller during her pregnancy. Over the course of Bud's study of alien abductions, he and a couple colleagues received financial support from the Fund for UFO Research, which resulted in a professional study of 9 supposed abductees. The results concluded that no psychological cause could be pointed toward to explain the stories, and none of the subjects demonstrated propensity for story fabrication nor the desire for notoriety. That leaves a third possibility to consider, a possibility that seems too fantastic to be plausible. People may really be part of an ever-unfolding genetic breeding program followed generationally by these alien entities. Stay tuned, folks. We'll continue our discussion of Bud Hopkins' book Intruders in a future episode. Until then, be safe. I'm Joe Hero. See you next time, somewhere out there.